Okay, so we continue with this translation of a Wikipedia article about public-private partnerships. So here we have a sentence which is already auto-translated by Google. Um, the second subclause is okay. There is still no generally accepted definition, which is just a standard phrase like in German as well, keine allgemein anerkannte Definition. However, here in the first one, we see that there's aufgrund der Vielgestaltigkeit der Anwendungsfelder, which sounds pretty horrible. It's a very complicated way to express it because they're so we have to we don't want to write it in a nominal style again. We don't want to say due to the variety or something like that. So we just want to have like a very simple because, therefore clause. So because the field is very, or because, and they're talking about application because, here again, we should repeat the actual subject. The source sentence is not saying what this text is about. So it says aufgrund der because the variety of applications of what? Of PPPs. Because there are so many applications for PPPs, or because PPPs are applied in so many fields, because there are so many applications for PPPs. Oops, typo, my bad. Because there are so many applications for PPPs, there is still no generally accepted definition of PPPs. So here we have ellipses, which is very important if any information is inferred. If it's obvious that it's about PPPs, we're not going to write except the definition of PPPs. We said that it's about PPPs, but we should mention it at least once. Because there are so many applications for PPPs, there is still no generally accepted definition. Here again, we have a nominalization in German, and we have to write that in a verbal style. Der wirtschaftliche Sprachgebrauch, which I really don't know how to find a noun for that in English. Like in the would they say like the common term in the business world basically is what they mean. So it is nowadays common in business to speak of PPPs only, comma, if both partners are combining their strengths. We don't have to say different strengths. They're different partners, so it's pretty obvious it should have different strengths. And here in German, they've said which is very common for German. So just you have to cut it out. They've said something they've added some completely useless information. That's that public-private partnerships regarding both the sense and the meaning of the term are only present. So no, what the heck? What are you talking about? So it's nowadays common in business to speak of PPPs only if both partners are combining their strengths. So that's all. You don't have to say of PPPs and the of the sense of PPPs or whatever. It's bullshit. Just cut it out. And don't. If the author is trying to be a smartass, some wannabe academic, don't let these people confuse you. Just make it simple. So you only call it a PPP if they're combining different strengths. If it's only one side providing for the PPP, then it's not a PPP. Then it's either public or only private. Simple as that. Therefore, and in the next sentence, we already have a clarification what they actually mean. So there's no need for this horrible phrase vom Sinn als auch vom Begriffsgehalt. Has no meaning at all. Pure financing. So combining their strengths. Therefore, therefore referring to what was said in the previous sentence. Therefore, pure financing, not financing transactions. Financing usually involves transactions. Pure financing, such as sale and lease back. So I want you to be very careful with these terms. We don't know if they are also used in English. They're using an English term in German, sale and lease back. We're going to have to verify. Never just copy that. We're going to have to verify if that's actually the English term. So we click on the link. Then we go to English. See? So we say in English, we see they call it leaseback, short for sale and leaseback. So, okay, we can use that term. It's been verified. But don't just go ahead and copy anything that's in English, because there's a lot of false friends in German. Pure financing, such as sale and leasebacks, comma, are therefore not included in the definition. Not part of the term. You don't ever say that. It doesn't mean anything. So are therefore not included in the definition. We want to make it a little precise but not too long. Therefore, pure financing, such as, or we could call it like pure financing deals, but you don't have to add another noun to that. Pure financing, such as sale and leasebacks, are therefore not included in the definition. Pure finance, or we actually do have to, because pure financing deals, financing is not countable, deals is countable. Here we say are therefore not included in the definition, so we need to turn financing into a plural, and we do that by adding another noun. I don't like transaction, it's too long, so pure financing deals, such as sale and leasebacks, are therefore not included in the definition. Next we have a horribly long sentence. Let me count that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines in one sentence with 1 5. So we just delete all of that. The machine has probably messed it up anyways. Okay, and so see here again. So according to the contemporary functional understanding of the term, what the hell? So we're just going to try to wrap that into 1 or 2 words. Therefore, the usual meaning of PPPs, or we've had definition before, so let's use it again. The usual definition of PPPs is a is a long-term, or is a mostly long-term collaboration, or let's call it cooperation. There's probably a difference between the two. If you know it, please write in the comments. Is a mostly long-term cooperation between the public and private sectors. Period. Next sentence. Here, see, here's a comma. We're going to start a new sentence. It's way too long, the source one. The resources, we're not going to say the necessary. Here in the German it says the necessary resources. It's resources. If they weren't necessary, they wouldn't be resources. They'd be luxuries. So, the resources such as know-how, which is not a, again, we're going to look for a better English term. Of the first place to look is, yeah, let's call it the know-how. That's what Wikipedia calls it. We're on the safe side. It's probably more beautiful terms, but whatever. As long as you can reference it, it's good. Assets. And with Betriebsmittel, we have to watch out because that's like a term from the balance sheet accounting, and it usually it doesn't refer to assets in general, but it refers to like PP&E, property, plant, and equipment. But when they're talking, but when you're like when you have general usage, and you're not referring to this balance sheet position, it's smarter to just say assets. So we're going to say know-how, assets, like a factory is an asset. Asset could also be a bank account, not tangible asset. Capital, staff, etc. And now the reason I'm not going to be more precise and write like tangible assets to differentiate it from capital, which is like intangible asset, is because it's really just a list with like a very general list where you don't have to be horribly precise. The resources, where the necessary resources are, see, and here it's again using a horrible textbook definition, horrible textbook German, von den Partnern for the mutual benefit of both partners, is entered into an organizational context. What the hell is in like an organizational context? The resources are shared by the partners for mutual benefit. And here again they're saying like vorhandene Projektrisiken, available risks. We're just going to say the risks because it's clear it's a project. It's clear that the risks that are present are shared by the partners for mutual benefit. The resources and risks are shared by the partners for mutual benefit according to their capacities. Or to be more precise, the risks are shared according to the capacities. Here oh, it's just horrible. What did Google write? Let me see that. That are mutually beneficial for the partners in a common organizational context. Existing project risks are distributed according to the risk management competence of the project partners. Horrible. who's supposed to understand that the resources and risks are shared by the partners or between the partners for mutual benefit according to their capacities. So here I'm just going to infer something or assume something that the risks and the resources are also shared according to each partner's capacity. So taking the sentence, now it's like just over 3 lines long, and I've probably taken nothing from the meaning. Here again, like, and I mean, Google Translate is pretty much, it gives you stuff that people would actually write. Like a beginning translator is very likely to not sound much different from Google Translate, but who's supposed to deal with stuff like privatization law includes public-private partnerships between task privatization. Oh, what the hell. So the legally, or there's a legal distinction. Is a legal distinction, is there even such a thing as privatization law? I don't even know, but let's Google it, because I think they're just trying to you're just trying to create an adjective that doesn't even exist. Whatever, Privatisierungsrecht. So I think there is no German privatization code, das deutsche Privatisierungsgesetz or whatever. So they're just talking about legally, like the general laws applying to privatization in particular, and not the Privatization Act of 1922. So there's a legal distinction between and here now we're going to have to look this up, or between the if there is such a, they're talking about privatization of tasks, and we're going to have to Google if there is a like a Wikipedia article or anything like that, or if there's like a dictionary entry. I'm going to use Lingui because they're searching the European legal database. And here, see, they call it functional privatization. Makes sense. So functional privatization or material privatizations. Privatization and organization. Is there such a thing as organizational privatization? Let's search right for the English word. Organizational privatization. Well, I mean, like, they probably mean like the privatization of an organization, organizational privatization, or formal privatization. There is a legal distinction between functional or material privatization and organizational or formal privatization. And we don't know where this, we don't know exactly where, if it's just in a German law or if it's in the European law. The text doesn't tell us. I don't know. I can't. So there is a legal distinction between functional or material privatization and I'm not going to say like from a privatization law perspective there is a distinction. No, we're saying there's a legal distinction. In the latter case, we never use that. Always leads to confusion. Nobody knows what's former and latter. you know, do I mean formal or do I mean material? So I'm just going to say, in the case of formal privatization, the public administration, they've made it sound very complicated in German again. The öffentlich-rechtliche Verwaltungsträger. We're just going to say the public administration. We're not going to say the administrative body or whatever. Public administration. The public administration continues actually under a privatrechtliche Gesellschaftsform, so they call it like as a private corporation or or only the public administration only uses a Gesellschaftsform is like actually you would say Rechtsform in German, Rechtsform, the legal form. Is that what you say in English? Business entity. Well, seems to be a thing, legal form, although it only appears in dictionaries, so this should be a big warning sign. So this is a German phrase that we use like for corporate structure or whatever. So I want to know it. What would you act? Yeah, you would say like a business entity. Okay, you would just say in English, you would just say it's a private company. So the public administration just works as a private company. Yeah. In the case of formal privatization, the public administration only uses a private company. Only it doesn't use it. Only in German you would say firmieren. Let's see if there's a verb. Yeah, it operates as a private company. Sure. It only operates as a private company. Operators. It only operates as a private company. So again, we're going to split the sentences. We're not going to say in the latter comma and the former. In the case of formal privatization, the public administration only operates as a private company. In the case of material privatization, a former hoheitliche Aufgabe is like a government task or something like that. Which is a kind of seems outdated to me, the term, but we're going to have to look it up in a dictionary. Wikipedia has not given us a result. It's a government sovereign task? No, sovereign government, like a government duty or something, I would say. Government task. Yeah. In the case of material privatization, a former government task is transferred completely or in part to the market, but generally remains under. So pay attention to these modifiers, such as in der Regel. You have to say generally because you don't want to make a false statement in your translation and say that it's always like that, but remains. It generally remains. So don't skip these words. Generally remains under, you would say, like government supervision, right? Or you would say a former public task is transferred completely or in part for public service. Yeah, it's a public service that's transferred. So you have to dare to think to the end. Don't. Here in this in the source they're saying like a sovereign task, a duty of the sovereign state. So if you want to make it sound like more informal in English, you would say like a former public service is because everybody knows what a public service is. Nobody knows what's a sovereign task. Always try to keep it simple. In the case of formal privatization, the public administration only operates as a private company. In the case of material privatization, so we're repeating each case, we're not saying the former or the latter. In the case of material privatization, right here, material, a former public service is transferred completely or in part to the market, but generally remains under government supervision. Okay, so that's it for this part. I hope you learned something. If you did or if you didn't, please leave me a comment below and I'll continue with the next video, hopefully with a better microphone.